where my passion meets the purpose. Establishing connectedness across the workplace, creating roles to purpose, and definitely ensuring we have the two-way dialogue channel opened at every time. Having a mindset of allyship, which leads to leading with empathy and building relationships, because we know relationships are built on trust, consistency, and accountability. They listen, they show compassion and endeavor to walk in the other people's shoes, meeting people where they are, recognizing unconscious bias and the toll of discrimination. They are in your corner, rooting for you and advocating for you. Another way of putting it, as I say, is to uphold the I in DEI, where DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So as a leader, every moment is a moment to uphold inclusion. It's always recommended that we diversify our circles, support work-life blend, reduce the impact of unconscious bias, practice purposeful inclusion. When you see something, you say something. Don't be a bystander. Embrace a broader view of leadership beyond command and control. Today, leadership is not command and control. The moment you try doing that, you will miss on your followers. Social styles and models play a big role in leadership. Based on the work of psychologists David Merrill and Roger Reed, the four social styles model is a fascinating way to understand communication, because communication is a big piece of leadership in culture building. So why is it fascinating? Because you understand the patterns and the propensities. It identifies two scales, assertiveness and responsiveness based on the metrics. So what are those four social styles? Amiable, analytical, expressive, and being a driver. Now, and interestingly, each one of it has its own unique language, thought process, and approach to business, which is not to say that there are only four types of people in the world. There are vast variances in each style. No one style is inherently better than the others. So each has its own strengths and uniqueness. And that's why I'm again calling to your attention cognitive diversity. I'm a keen observer, and as I see interactions with me and around me, it enables me to identify key styles based on their conversations, expressions, and decision making, which has helped me to make more meaning of our, varyingly different reactions and responses to a similar situation. So, what is the lesson learned? Differences make relationships, interestingly, isn't it? And also trigger a personal growth. I believe in thinking together. And today, I'm not here to give you a solution. I'm here to make you think. Rather, I believe in ensuring we are thinking through leveraging our cognitive diversities on the challenge of culture building. Now, I take a pause here with a message. We all are unique, we know by now. Diversity is not just gender or binary for that matter. Diversity is not just equal to women. Diversity is each one of us with our visible and invisible dimensions and intersectionalities. Like, am I domiciled? I'm a daughter of, for example, I'm a daughter of migrant parents. I was born in the eastern part of India, now settled in the southern part of India. I have worked across industries. So there are many nuances to it. I travel a lot pre-COVID, obviously. So let us understand there is diversity. Each one of us is a diversity with nuanced visible and invisible dimensions and intersectionalities. Let us embrace the diversity which is in nature and nurture mindful inclusion. and transform the world for a better tomorrow, touching quality of lives around us one at a time. So, as I kind of traveled through different industries, meeting people across the realm, working across all the diversity dimensions of gender, generation, disability, LGBTQ plus inclusion, ethnicity, and culture, I still feel I have not grown. I'm still a student of life. So, continuing to be a student of life, I would once again congratulate each one of you on celebrating your Golden Jubilee. Thank you, Professor Manjula, for getting me here. And over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. uh, Very enduring. Ma'am, I subscribe to which you spoke about resilience leadership, the style to win despite change and obstacles, building a culture of talent management, diversity, equity, and inclusion is stronger than ever. And the takeaway for all of us is reveal opportunities, elevate equity, activate diversity, and lead inclusively. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you
We
so much.
have the next speaker with us. Women in leadership, women empowered, and women at the helm of affairs make a difference. This resonates with our next panelist, Lavanya Pachicia. Lavanya Pachicia, co-chair, HR and Women Empowerment, and a leadership expert, committee, BCIC, and COO, Zivami. Highly accomplished, result-driven business leader with high corporate experience. A B2C article titled Flexible Leadership Learning to Lead and Manage. The author tells us that in these fast paced, changing times, to be truly flexible, we must wear two hats, that is of a leader and that is of a manager. There is a need for delicate balancing act. Now, I invite Lavanya Pachicia to speak on right balance and flexibility in leadership style. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Manjula ma'am. Thank you so much for an invite. It's indeed a pleasure to be speaking to all of you today morning. And I would definitely start, congratulating you on your Golden Jubilee. And it's a very interesting topic, which has been obviously kind of handed over to me to kind of talk about. Especially, I think so this is something which all of us have kind of experienced with the past 2 years in COVID. I think so being flexible and agile and really kind of transform yourself during this period has been the kind of the messaging which is kind of going on, right? But I just want to, before I get into the details, I just want to first talk about why is this being talked so much, right? I think so what's one way to define life? The only way to define life is how do you move forward, right? So that's where the importance of the leader really comes there, or the leadership really comes there, right? Leaders are the people who actually help you to kind of move forward, right? So wherever you are, so they have the vision. My earlier speaker obviously spoke about how it is important to be visionary. So we are talking about how, so you have a vision, and once you have a vision, you are actually pushing people to kind of move forward on it. Okay, so that creates the importance of leaders in the organization. I don't want to get into difference between manager and leader, but what I'm trying to tell, that's why leaders are valued, because they help the whole organization to kind of move forward. And that's the reason why everybody is talking about how you kind of can become transformation through leadership. That's the kind of doing this thing around it, right? Now coming to what can a good leader do? Before I go into flexibility, what can a good leader do? So obviously we spoke about vision. So they clearly see where they want to take the company, the team, their goals, they kind of align. And they also define how you're going to kind of get there, so that is something which they define, right? Also, one of the good qualities of a leader is they devise strategy. Strategy is one thing which is obviously expected out of all leaders, which is important to define how you're going to get there. One other thing which is the most important is how are you like a talent, like how do you nurture talent. I wouldn't I actually agree with Nandini where she was talking about retaining talent. Really growing talent is one of the main things what the leaders can really do. I have about 20 years of experience. Okay, so I would say that initially it was all about delivering, how do you kind of meet your goals and all that, but then post that it's all about how do you nurture talent. Technical knowledge, yes, but how do you kind of nurture talent becomes one of the important roles of a leader. Okay, now I'm just going to take a few steps ahead to talk about why you have to find a right balance. So people are there about leadership style. There was always a traditional leadership style which was there, which was more top to down, but today everybody's talking about collaborative and a partnered leadership, right? So today everybody's not, it's because you hold a position, it does not mean that you have the power to influence also, right? So I think so today what I would say, a new age leader, there are a couple of things which I really feel as a leadership style, what they really need to kind of inherit. Okay, actually, if you see, one is one of the topmost ones which I really come into my mind at this point of time is how agile are they? Like, can they adapt? Agility is really, really important at this point of time, especially over the past 2 years. You would have seen, and if you follow companies who have been agile, during the COVID, who have kind of come with solutions during this period, have kind of survived the COVID period. So in a business scenario, I feel agility is one of the main things which a leader should have, as he or she really thinks that it is kind of more flexible for themselves. Second thing, one of the things which most of the leaders struggle to do is actually delegation. Like, how can you like delegate the power to people below you? It is very, very important. You can't solve all the issues. It is about how can you believe in the power of delegation. Like, can you give more people the opportunity? That is the only way to develop talent. So power of delegation is one of the other things which you really need to adopt as you make this into a flexible, like you say that you're flexible and you want to find the right balance. This actually helps you to kind of achieve the goals for the company. One other thing which I actually see is also about speed of execution. Okay, in this fast phase, and I think so, I represent an e-commerce company. Like I'm actually the CEO at Zivame.com, and I think so most of the people here, considering most of them are women, should know about Zivame.com. One of the things what we have really seen is about speed of execution in the fast-paced world. Like, how fast can you execute will differentiate between a success and a failure. Like, really speed of execution, how the leader can really think about what is kind of coming and is able to execute, becomes very, very important when it comes. So it actually defines the success of the company. I feel speed of execution is very, very, very important. The third thing also about when you talk about flexible leadership, one of the very different perspective what I kind of get is how much of it can you do that on data and analytics. Data is the next big power, and I think so the next world war is going to be all about data. How does your leadership leverage the data what you have with you, whether it is defining your business, whether it is about your people, whether it is how you're going to kind of develop your strategy. One of the things what you really need to do is about data and how analytical. See, I think so most of you are finance or commerce related students, but the power of data and AI ML in the next few years to come is going to define how all our lives are going to be, like how we are going to live our lives, right? So I think so as to be flexible, to know, yes, there is people dependency, you need to nurture your talent, but all your decisions have to be made more on data analytics. Without this, data is future, guys. Their data is not going to go anywhere. And I think so how you can build and leverage that becomes very, very important as you talk about flexibility in what you do. So it really will help you to drive decision making very well. Last but not the least, and this Nandini also spoke about, is the empathy as a leader. How are you empathetic to your people? The EQ quotient, as much as I spoke all the other things which were more defining about how you define the success of the company, but to keep everything together and to help people move forward, I think so EQ and empathy will obviously play a very, very important role. So you have to develop the sense of empathy to kind of relate to people, ensure that you collaborate to problem solve the common thing, which is very important. Last but not the least, one thing which I want to leave with this audience is always focus on how you can be part of the solution and not the problem. Okay, this is very important as you are kind of getting into the corporate world. When you see there, you will be valued more if you're actually part of the solution. Everybody, there are like many people who can actually come and tell that these are the 4 problems I have or 5 problems you have. But if you go a step further and you're able to kind of able to give or demonstrate saying this is the solution to the problem what we have, it might not be the perfect solution, or it might not be what I would say what the company might take it forward. But as long as you have the problem solving attitude and you focus on being on the part of the solution, I think so leadership or having roles in leadership is not going to be difficult. So I think so that's the mantra what you would see in new age company about how you be part of the problems of the part of the solution instead of the problem. So that will kind of help to define you define the success for each one of you. Wishing you all very best and many congratulations. Over to you, Manjula ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much. Now, what do we understand from ma'am's talk? A quick look at it. Call for action today. It says new age leadership is about completely changed management. I think new age leadership is in the new age economy. And she also spoke about, in the new age leadership style, bring me solutions and not problem. And what is the key takeaway that I have from this particular thing when ma'am spoke about the digital change? I think leaders like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs or Elon Musk have embraced the digital change and adapted to it very swiftly with their excellent leadership skills, and their skills. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for taking us through. Now we have the next speaker in the panel. Savita Reddy. A recent pandemic has demonstrated that when we use effectively, digital transformation can help businesses succeed in every and even most trying circumstances. There are many factors affecting knowledge sharing in virtual teams, language being one of them. Language pervades all aspects of organizational life, yet remarkably, leaders of global organizations whose employees speak a multitude of languages often pay too little attention to it in their approach to talent management. What is language strategy in virtual leadership? in digital transformation is the next topic. To give us information on different nature of leadership and language strategy in virtual teams, we have with us Savita Reddy, CEO in Lingua Bangalore, a startup which allows an individual to choose a language teacher on your own, the first of its kind in the industry. I will invite Savita Reddy to speak on virtual leadership in digital transformation. Over to you, Savita.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Manjula, and a very good afternoon to all the students, the fellow panelists, and the management, and many congratulations to all of you and the successful completion and the Golden Jubilee. And a very interesting topic, and I think the speakers before me have already highlighted Nandini Sarkar and Lavanya, the changing the transformational leadership. So coming to the virtual leadership, yes, we have seen, leadership itself is a constantly changing, evolving, like Steve Jobs says, innovation is what sets it apart. So we have seen how the leadership styles have changed from the traditional leadership styles where it was more of a authoritative, autocratic during the industrial age where work had to be accomplished and people had to use a different style of leadership. And when things changed from the industrial age, we moved to a technology age or an information age. It was more of a visionary or a democratic, and then slowly as services took over, the leadership styles also changed from an autocratic style to more recently, I think towards the end of the decade, it was more of a servant leadership which was in vogue, and everybody started talking about how servant leadership is and thing, and how to get your work done using a different leadership styles and things like that. So with constantly changing leadership styles, suddenly one fine day we wake up and we see the entire world is in a lockdown, and people started working remotely, which was unheard of in many industries, in many spheres. For example, in our area of work, where it's a language study, it was always a face-to-face this thing. So for the last 16, 17 years, classroom-based learning was the in thing. It's like we were always used to the classroom learning style, and then suddenly everything had to be moved online and it became virtual, and then suddenly the team started working on remotely, and everything changed all of a sudden. So the leader, as a leadership here, it's like we'd have to accomplish the same goals, and using remote working, people started working from different geographies or within the same geography. For example, we had to accomplish the goals and get work done and things like that. So how is virtual leadership very different from what we used to do earlier before the lockdown? Instead of having everyone in the same place, there's this virtual distance, the people working from different places. Sometimes it's like I've not even met many of our trainers or people. It's like I've only heard them or talking to them on Zoom meetings, and mostly it's an audio call, not even a video or this thing. So all of a sudden, it's like you're working with people whom we have not even met, and there is a lot of incomplete communications. It's like we're all working on different parts of the puzzles. It's like, so this is where as a leader, it's very important that you bring this entire different pieces of the puzzle right together, so that everyone sees a complete picture. Nobody has a picture. Everybody is working on different puzzles, different pieces. There is a lot of incomplete communications that I see every day. The reporting systems have changed. Earlier, it was like people would report to the training head or maybe the sales and marketing and things like that. Now everyone is accessible on a remote working. This one, the top management or the other managements are departmental functions. There's a very thin line. It's all vanished, and the reporting systems have changed, and people have started being in touch or contact, or there is very thin line there, and there is no direct influence on the people. Earlier, there was an immediate feedback available. You meet people. There was an opportunity for a small chit chat, or you talk to them, and you get a complete information as and when as we keep moving. But now there is no direct influence on the people. There is no immediate feedback loops available as a leader to take information, and there's a complete absence of interpersonal skills. As we are evolving, and more or less in some of the industries, especially like ours, we have decided that virtual is going to be the future. It's like we have decided not to go back to the classroom training because it offers a lot of benefits, right, comparatively from the traditional businesses. So there is a whole lot of things that are changing. So what are the challenges when these changes happen in the virtual space? There are a lot of physical barriers, technological barriers, cultural barriers. Apart from the virtual distance, it's like absence of a centralized location for the team to sit in one place and do it. Sometimes there are these timing differences also. I mean, we offer classes in different languages. We have some of our Spanish language trainers sitting in Spain and teaching from there. Sometimes even to connect with them and communicate with them, there is a timing differences that comes into place, the different geographical locations, and sometimes this could act as a barrier. But then irrespective of how those barriers, how we put them, bring them together, is what our skill comes in. Most of the time, one of the common these things in the virtual space is the internet issues. It's like we have a lot of women working with us, a lot of people who have kids, families at home, and then many a times one of the common issues that we face is the internet issues, and sometimes even the availability of the hardware. When suddenly it's like you have the entire family working from home, husband sitting there, the kids using their devices. Sometimes it's like for the women, they do not even have their laptops available for them to even make a presentation, and being sensitive to all these things that their entire family is there. Sometimes they don't even have a space of their own to take the calls and be available on a video call or make presentations and things like that. So these are all the challenges. Being aware that as women, it's like we go through all these things. Sometimes it's like we ask a team member to share something, suddenly say, no, I've logged in from my mobile, I'll not be able to share, and things like that. So understanding it and being a little easier and makes things easier. And also there's a lot of this background noise and disturbance. Sometimes you're all multitasking, being in the kitchen, and sometimes it's like as soon as you ask them to unmute, it's like the kid is answering, the husband is on the call, and so many things come into it, right? And many a times it's like it's not very easy for the people to get used to the technology challenges, right? Even to share a screen or present or be able to understand how this entire thing works. It's like, so these are all the various challenges. And many times it's like also being on the virtual this thing, unlike the earlier times, you could share anything and there was a lot of privacy. But now there is no freedom or privacy. Everything that you say, it's all there on the record. The WhatsApp, I've seen our students, team members share the WhatsApp screenshot saying, okay, no, this is what the student said, this is what the trainer said. So you need to be like really careful on what you type, what you say. The meetings are getting recorded and the WhatsApp communication is all like there for everyone to see. So these are all the various challenges. Being as a leader, as a person who holds these teams together, being aware that these are all the challenges that we go through every day. Sometimes for some of us, it's very easy, but it's not the same for everyone. I've seen it's like small kids, people have to work with a lot of disturbances, have to take care of their family members' needs, and this comes to the work. So how do we make this entire remote working or virtual leadership more effective? Three simple things which earlier, both Nandini and Lavanya have already emphasized is transparency, inclusion, and trust. So it's very important that as we are working in a virtual world, right, to keep, to be very honest with your teams, to be very transparent about your plans and your goals, so that, and the desired outcomes, so that people know that what is expected of you. Sometimes earlier people were given information only how much they need to know. The sales team need to know only what they had to work on, and the training team needed to only know what the information related to their work. But then now, the more in the last 2 years of working with the people, I realized it doesn't work that way no longer. It's very important that to give them the complete picture, to be very transparent and explain to them why we are doing what we are doing, so that they understand and they're in sync with what we are doing. And it's also very important to have inclusion, to allow everyone in the team to participate. It's like instead of having people work separately on their own smaller outcomes, it's very important to bring everyone together, show them the big picture, and show them how everyone is contributing to this big picture, so that it's easier for them to relate to and contribute. And trust, I think, is one of the most important this thing in the virtual leadership, this thing, where we need to completely have trust in our teams. Sometimes it's like there are a lot of challenges that they come through, but let them know that yes, we are there for them and we trust in their work and things like that. That complete support is what they're looking at. So what are the other ways that we could make these things work? For us, I think WhatsApp has become like a default communication channel. So use all the appropriate communication channels that are available, whether it's the WhatsApp or emails or videos or audio meetings, calls and things like that. It's use the appropriate communication channels, know when to use what. For us, it's like most of the work happens on WhatsApp. We have different groups for different languages or training programs or the teams and things like that. So we're all there all the time on different groups, whether it's a weekend or morning or evening. So we know that even when we have a call, it's like we follow it up, put it up on the WhatsApp so that it's effective. It's all there in the writing. More than the emails, we have started using WhatsApp. And coaching team members. Sometimes what really helped me is having a one-on-one connect with the team members separately, trying to understand their backgrounds, their cultural backgrounds, their family, and then if possible, give them a buddy system or interacting with the team members, getting to know them deeper and then coaching them. Or sometimes it's like there's a lot of pressure that they go through and things like that. Recently, we introduced a meditation program, which really helped some of them. And then we realized, some of these things cannot be done outside of the working hours. During the working hours, in the this thing is when we started introducing all these programs, which the team members found it very useful and easy. So this way, bring them together. And the 3 C's that I follow in my this thing is the calibration, collaboration, and celebration. Calibration: plan properly, set clearly defined goals, define the steps, make it easier. Sometimes you have to keep repeating yourself again and again, put it in writing, keep reminding them in the meetings and things like that. But clearly define all the steps. And then collaborate. Your ability as a leader to bring all the teams together, collaborate, give them the big picture, and encourage them, motivate them to work towards it. And finally, celebration, recognition, and rewards. Every small effort that they put in, every milestone, celebrating it, having fun, bringing in a little bit of humor, and is what really helped. So to conclude, I would like to, quote Lao Tzu, the Chinese philosopher, who in the 6th century BC, even though it's very old, this thing, I found it very profound, which holds good even today's times. A leader is best when people barely know he exists. When his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, we did it ourselves. So as a leader, it's our duty to enable and empower the teams to accomplish their works, irrespective of the changes or the challenges. Bring people together and give them the power, enable them, empower them to accomplish the goals, and they know that they've done it themselves. So thank you so much, and all the very best to all the students and the faculty members and everyone here. And over to you, Manjula.
Thank you, Savita. I could relate to Forbes 2020 report, which says the next big thing is virtual leadership. Thank you, Savita, for capturing the role of leadership challenges in the virtual learning environment, and also for having said how to manage the virtual team through communication, listening, inclusion, emotional intelligence. And thanks for sharing the 3 C's. The next speaker for the day is Srivalli Manda. The future of business growth is in partnerships that companies and their executives form. Partnering explains how critical it is for business leaders to partner effectively. Leadership is partnership. It is said by Ken, a co-author of Collaboration Begins With You. The most successful leaders are the ones who partner with their staff. To talk more on this, we have Srivalli Manda, Entity Accounting Leader, Danisco India Private Limited. Madam will talk on partnership, the new phase of leadership. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Manjula, ma'am. And as you are celebrating the Golden Jubilee, congratulations to all the students and the faculty members and the management of the college. And thanks for giving me this opportunity. And it is a privilege to be part of this event. So talking about
just a second. Just stop you to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. I think can the team give ma'am the host, because ma'am wants to make a presentation. I request the team. Mr. Akshit and Varsha.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am has a presentation to make. Can we enable it for ma'am,
Okay,
please?
okay.
Yeah.
Varsha?
Ma'am, we can continue, ma'am.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
So I'm given a very interesting topic of partnering, the new phase of leadership, and I must say this is the need of the hour. So can I start the
You can.
screen share?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please.
Okay. Yeah. So, as my previous speakers have spoken about leadership and the different types of leadership modes that they have been followed since the inception, I mean, the industrial age, and then as of the latest service mode of working. So, here I'm going to talk in particular about the partnering leadership style. So the presentation is self-explanatory, but just going through a few points here. So the partnership kind of leadership works wherein the leader has to establish empowering relationships with their followers. So the basic need here is that there has to be trust, respect, and autonomy. Whereas in the previous modes, the paternalistic leaders, there is authoritative mode of leadership. It was more of an authoritative relationship wherein it was more about care, control, and structure. So as we can see in the recent mode, the leadership has, I mean, the organization structures has changed from being a vertical organization structure to a more horizontal structure. So we can understand that organizations are adapting to new modes of leadership in order to survive in this competitive world and to attract talent and to retain that talent. So the partnership leadership behaviors, they create a positive employee experiences. As per a survey, it was found that 89% of employees working with a partnership-oriented leader felt confident in the future of their organization. So this was significantly more compared to the other leadership models, wherein it was 81% for paternalistic and 72% for transactional, and 48% for the adversarial leadership models.
2 minutes. I'll arrange. I'm arranging that. 2 minutes.
So coming to the characteristics that
I'll
a
arrange 2 minutes.
partnership leader has to possess, the first basic quality is that the leader has to show equality. So he is not just a leader. I mean, he should not be behaving like a boss, but he gives he gives more importance to all the team members, equal importance to all the team members to participate in their discussions and in decision making as well. So the next characteristic is group vision. So all the group members participate in the decision making and setting the direction for the unit. This helps in setting the targets and achieving them in a with a group responsibility. So the next quality is shared responsibility. So as we have seen, once the decision making and the direction are set by the group, there is a shared responsibility of all the group members, which gives all the members the responsibility for the results and the consequences of the group's actions. So partnership leaders are naturally inclusive. They include the perspectives of the others in their decision making, and they usually ask for suggestions, ideas, and possibilities, and before making their decisions. So, so when this style works best, the partnership mode of leadership, it works best with small groups, the group has to be incredibly experienced and talented individuals, and trust, honesty, and belief are the key ingredients of the partnership leadership. So a few suggestions have been provided for partnership leadership, wherein there have to be clear and frequent communication with the group. So the leaders must establish a rhythm of having a regular meetings with the group for at least 30 minutes every week with each reportee. so that this creates a trusting relationship with the team as well as improves the morale and productivity of the department. So these meetings also help to provide the team member with the set goals and to appraise on the progress of the task, because sometimes when we are working, our work not only depends on our progress, but also on we need inputs from other team members, or we also need input from other teams as well. So sometimes we might have some difficulty receiving the inputs on a timely basis. So these meetings will help us to have the information from the team members, wherein we can understand where they are facing any bottlenecks, and help to sort out those difficulties so that they can be on track and complete the task in time. So these meetings help us to give them that confidence level that we are with them, and helping them to reach their goals, instead of always questioning them as in the previous modes of leadership. So most of the organizations, established organizations nowadays, are they have adapted to these kind of leadership activities, because as Nandini ma'am has said, it is important that we have tone at the top, because once the management is very conscious of the attitudes that the organization culture has to follow certain leadership activities, it flows towards flows to the down. So as ma'am has emphasized on the importance of the organization culture, so nowadays employees are not very keen on the paycheck. It is also on the culture of the organization which they are taking into consideration before accepting an offer. And so we have to also keep an eye on the learning and the training of the employees on a regular basis. Whereas where Lavanya ma'am has emphasized on the importance of data analytics and AI in the current scenarios, is the need to have a learning culture throughout the organization, and the learning can happen from any quarter, like it is from your seniors or your peers, or it can be from your juniors as well. It is we have learning opportunities from everywhere in the organization. So the organization has to inculcate that culture of learning and having the effective leadership throughout the organization, and see that the policies are being implemented in a proper way. The organizations just having the policies, and they have to even think about the implementation of those policies as well. Coming to end of the presentation.
Have you completed, ma'am, your points on this?
Finally, making my last note, as Savita ma'am has emphasized in her presentation. In this virtual mode, I can say that in my present organization, till now, because I have joined during the pandemic, I haven't met any of my team members till now. It has always on virtual mode. So we are adapting to this mode, and this mode of communication we are adapting, and this is the point I need to make. As maybe we feel that this is all common sense, right? Most of the points that we are talking, these are common sense, but still we are emphasizing on these points, and because they do not work in all the modes. Sometimes organizations and the managers or the leaders, they face certain difficulties with certain team members, and in certain they are still adapting, because if the workforce is talented and they don't need much supervision, this kind of leadership model will work. Whereas when they are they have less competence or they need more guidance, then the managers or the leaders have to adapt different modes. And so the organizations are slowly adapting to the modes, to the partnership mode, because it gives more competitive advantage to them and to retain their talents as well. So thank you, ma'am. I would suggest the students as a future workforce to be more adaptive and keen in taking and have a learning attitude throughout their working life, so that they can adapt to different situations in the organizations. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so very much. Thanks for speaking on partnership leadership. I think we all subscribe to your view. Partnership leadership is emerging as an effective leadership style for women and men both. I personally feel command and control leadership has been a history now. Now, when we talk about, thanks for also emphasizing on two words that I could take away from your session, your talk rather, was, two things that is often associated with partnership leadership are enhancing the self-worth of employees and energizing the teams. Thank you, ma'am. We have the next speaker is an academician, a teacher, Dr. Mality Janardhan. Nothing can replace a human element of relationship in education. If we have great people, our students will succeed. It's simple as that. Educational leaders have certainly had to exercise their leadership muscle in this pandemic. What traits do education leaders need to navigate today's challenging environment is a very big question. To talk on this, we have Dr. Mality Janardhan, faculty CIMS, mLAC and Jain University, with a rich experience in teaching, will give us insights more on leadership in education. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Manjula, ma'am. I think I'm audible, right?
Yes, ma'am, very much, please.
Okay. A very good afternoon to all the members who are present here and the panelists who have presented before me. And I would like to thank Dr. Abhinandan and the principal of Maharani Lakshmi Ammanni College. When I was just scrolling towards the number of members who are present here, I think I was able to see it was more of women and the lady candidates who are present and who are participating in this particular session. So I think it is quite more apt to speak about the topic, whatever that is given to us, and whatever topic that we have under the discussion. So when we speak about the women and women as a leader or women in the workplace or the workforce, women actually they see the world through a different lens than men. I think most of you should be able to agree to this particular point as well. And this is quite a very broad point, and it has quite a very broader meaning, in fact. First of all, let me tell about my own experience, in fact. So when I started my career during the late 90s, immediately after my graduation from Bangalore University, I started working in a corporate organization. But then how much of opportunity is being given to the women to work with whatever the freedom that you have was a big question. I think as of now, maybe there are lots of opportunities, and maybe the parents are more broad-minded than what we see 2 decades before or 3 decades before. But I think maybe the things were not the same before 3 decades or 2 decades and so forth. So that's how I came into this teaching profession. So when we speak about the teaching career or teaching profession, this is usually meant for ladies. That is what the point was before a few years. But then we can find more of men also, or equal number of men as well working in this particular sector as of now. But at the initial stages, okay, maybe before this 2 decades, 3 decades, when I'm trying to draw out the points, that's where I was very much motivated, or
I could rather say I was forced to leave a corporate world and get into this teaching world because of the flexible timings that we have here. The flexibility of timings, when I say, okay, maybe we just have to work between this usual biological clockwise time, where from 9 o'clock till 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock, then pack up and go back home and so forth. And whenever students have vacation, even we do have vacation, and those things actually forced me to get into this particular profession. And getting into a night shift or a night job and working in elsewhere or different places was quite a big challenge during those days. And so I came into this particular field, in fact. So here we are speaking more about the people and the women who are as leaders and who are able to bring in the different collaborations or maybe the challenges that they have during this virtual leadership, or a few other points that has been mentioned by my co-panelists. What I would like to concentrate on is, as a woman, I think most of the lady women students are here, okay, where first and the foremost challenge is that how is that you can get into a proper workforce, into a good organization, and later how much you can sustain in those organizations itself is a big question. And from there, your journey or your graph towards becoming a leader of an organization, maybe you become the boss of the organization, you start your own concern, or you head different departments or different levels. So how exactly your journey would be, and what is that you may have to inculcate within you, that is what I would like to concentrate here. And I would like to mention few points to our young ladies who are present here. So first and the foremost thing is that when we see in this particular education field, we don't have too many women leaders who are acting as the vice chancellors of universities, in fact. So when we speak about the topmost position in the academic field, it is being the vice chancellor of any university. Either it can be an public or a private, any deemed universities, and so forth. So there is statistics which states that out of 431 universities in India, we hardly have only 13 universities where we have ladies as the vice chancellors. So that number is very, very minimum, in fact. And how is that we can reach to that particular position where you can decide most of the things and you can bring a transformation in the society is very important for all the young ladies over here. So what is that you need to inculcate is, the first thing is that your work-life balance, and how much you can balance yourself for taking care of your family as well as taking care of your career is very, very important. And that becomes a unique challenge for any women for that matter. And I'm sure most of you should be agreeing to this point as well. And the first thing is that I just want to list out 4 to 5 points on the work-life balance. The first thing is that you need to prioritize on me time. So when I say me time, it is something where you need to give more time for yourself. So when you have to give more time for yourself, you need to take care of yourself in a good manner. Either it can be mentally, physically, and how much of breathing, good breathing is required for you, how much of exercise, good food, meditation. So all these are the basic things, but still this becomes the important point. Or else once if you cross maybe 35 or 40, I think life can become more challenging, and you can invite more of all other unnecessary things into your life where your body might not support to go ahead with your career, in fact. So this is the right time where once if you're starting your career, I think you need to concentrate and you need to balance on yourself and you need to give that me time. Is that clear? And the second point I would like to mention is that you need to find a job that you love. Is that clear? So maybe whether you are forced to get into any particular job or whether you are trying to get into a job by your own will and wish, maybe whether you want to become an auditor or a bank employee or a lecturer, or maybe you want to start a new startup, anything for that matter, I think you need to have a passion towards your job. Only then you can become a successful leader, in fact. Otherwise, I don't think so. In case if you're forced for anything, maybe you might not reach that particular target, whatever that you wanted to, or so forth. The third point I would like to concentrate is on where you need to set certain targets for yourself. And when I say targets, it's not necessary, it has to be boundaries or anything as in such. You need to be free on that, but then you need to clearly know your targets, and you should understand how far you go is good for you, and how far you go is really trying to match your family life and your career and your future prospectus. So all these things should be taken care of, and so have proper targets, and see what is that you actually want to reach, and based on that you can actually modulate your life, and you can bring in lots of changes. You can learn on everyday basis, and you can reach that heights wherever you wanted to, and then you can bring in the change in the society as whatever that you want to. In case, if at all, if you have to bring in certain changes in whatever the field or whichever field that you are in, I think becoming or reaching a topmost position is very, very important, because if you are just a part of the workforce, for sure, I think you might not be able to bring in 100% changes in the society where you stay. Okay, that's one part of it. And then the next part of it is where you need to have take a time out. Okay, it means that you need to be more flexible as well. The flexibility is very, very important on wherever you work. So don't be tied up with a job from for completely 24 hours or maybe 18 hours or 20 hours job. And again, wherever you are trying to take out time for yourself, and you can concentrate on the other things which can actually broaden your vision at during those hours. So that's something which is quite important. And I think this pandemic has brought in lots of flexibility for everybody who have been working in different fields for that matter. And as I mentioned that when I started up my career, maybe choosing this particular field where it was more lighter than the corporate was only for few days, in fact, or for few years. But then later, I think most of the academicians in the group should be actually, you should, I think you might accept my point where we do have lots of pressure as compared to any corporate institutions, because we just don't teach and we don't get out of the classroom. These days, faculty members are being given lots of other responsibilities also, where you maybe be coordinator of as many events, or it can be the committees for that matter. And we have lots of regulations in our academics or in the university level. Either it can be through the UGC or through AICT or through NAC. I think we may have to fulfill and accomplish all these norms as well. So I think almost all the academicians have to work on this as well. And the most important challenge is that handling or dealing with the younger generation, especially when I speak about the generation Z. I think people are not as strong as that of generation X, in fact. There is a big challenge how you deal with your students. So more than dealing with the students, I would rather say that you need to always be with your students. And students these days are they are quite strong enough, but they are more sensitive. So you can't shout at them, you can't scold them, you can't do anything. In fact, because they are more sensitive. So how much of patience that you have in, so that you can bring in the best with these little kids or the children, and how is that we can motivate them to become a future leader itself is a big challenge for all the faculty members as of now. So I think having more patience and trying to understand these children is most important. I think with that we will be able to solve these issues. And one more point which I would like to concentrate on this work-life balance is that we need to inculcate the management skills within us. And so when I say management skills, basically getting the work done from others, and how is that you can be involved in planning, organizing, motivating, controlling, coordinating, directing. So all these tricks of management, whatever that we have, I think all these philosophies or policies, in case if we can start imbibing in those students, I think definitely we can bring in leaders, or we can actually generate leaders at the college level itself. So that is the point that I would like to mention. And when we see in accordance to the various norms like UGC or AICT norms, I think these days women are being given lots of opportunities, and we have certain lists or norms are there where these many percentage or this percentage of job should be allocated to women. So I'm sure once if you get into any particular job based on all these criteria, I think even there we have lots of challenges, but still at least you have an entry level where you are being given lots of preferences. So that's one part of it. But then how far you go is too far. You need to understand that particular point. And as I said, we have very few people who are at the academician levels as the vice chancellors. So we may have to thrive, and we may have to focus on these issues. And I think the younger generation may have to be more dedicated on how you can mold yourself and how you can take up the future, how you can become the future leaders and so forth. Okay, so I think with this, I would like to conclude. Yes, Manjula ma'am, you're there?
Yeah, I'm very much there.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think leaders in higher education have a foot in two different worlds. And this creates a unique need for intentional leadership development, being in the field of education, I personally feel. On one hand, we educators are driven by the desire to make a difference through teaching, researching, and writing. On the other hand, we take leadership roles like the department chairs and the deans and the program directors and managers or administrators. We have responsibilities, and we need to require skills outside our core discipline and areas of expertise. Having said that, the call for action for what we understood today is academic leadership, need to focus on leadership development, and focus, today's speaker, the key takeaway is focus on equity, create a vision and mission, upskill and reskill, and emphasizing on understanding the generational cohort. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, all the panelists. A great, learning for me personally and all present here. Now we'll go on to the QA session. We have a few curated questions. I will take you through. Just a minute now. I have a question, which has come for Lavanya, ma'am. This is, before I go to the question, I want to add my question to the question by one of the, a participant. Just reading a Yale Insight, it says approaches to leadership in new roles, which talked about by Joel, an American lawyer, and then he became a school superintendent. He was with Microsoft, he was with Media Group and education, and most influential person in the public education in America. Now, my question to you, ma'am, is Is there a leadership style for a particular industry? One. And second, can you take your leadership skills as an individual across sectors?
It's a very interesting question. Okay, there is okay. Let me just tell you, there is no one leadership style which can work across. Not I first forget industry. Even in your day to day, it is not possible to say that one leadership style will work across. Okay, people are different, so when you deal with different people, obviously you kind of adopt different leadership styles. Okay, let me just talk out of my own experience. I'm currently the CEO, so I kind of work with different people throughout the day. I have a white collared so when I work with people in warehouse, okay, so I would probably take a more autocratic leadership style out there, because the people whom I'm going to deal there will be very different. But when I deal with a tech, so I might take a more collaborative approach, right? So there is no specific leadership style which you can kind of do. Forget different industries. I would say that even in your own day to day, you cannot have a same leadership style. You have to evolve with the situation. And actually, I would just say one leadership which always applies is situational leadership. So actually you have to just be agile to kind of come up on the spot to actually adopt what will really work at that point of time. I hope that kind of answers your question.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So, situation leadership holds good, for this particular question. Okay, I have a question to Nandini, ma'am. Ma'am, the KPMG in India's Returning Women program talks about second career comeback program, keeping in mind the agility factor. Ma'am, I just want you to throw light upon how do we attract and engage women returning to workforce, ma'am, after a career break?
This is one chunk of that untapped talent pool which most of the organizations are trying to make a headway into. Given gender inclusion finds a big strategic focus from the board, or rather the C-suite. Coming to my experiences working across industries like manufacturing when I was in Cummins, now with Boeing, previously with Sodexo, IBM, this definitely finds a key focus area. So there are two things to it. We know there are marketplace consultants who are working in the space of returning women from hiatus, like Jobs for Her. There are others as well. Now, typically, what we require to do this to this talent pool set is they're already experienced in some of the domains that they come from. What they have done and what nurturing is required from us as mentors to these women. So I mentor a lot of women who are trying to make this transition back to mainstream career. They require that nudge and validation, which I guess most of the women suffer from. We always look for validation for the choices or the preferences we make. So the validation and preference of the preferences and the choices that they made to either go a family way or go into the route of adult care, or maybe follow a higher education, or maybe follow a spouse. There could be any reason, spouse or partner for that matter. There could be any reasons why a woman takes a break, but predominantly going the family way because the physiological wiring makes woman a mother. So that's there. So what happens is we have to typically bridge that gap of a low confidence and amplify it, boost it to become a confidence level where a woman feels proud to state the key life skills that they have acquired during this break. And at the same time, from an organizational or industry perspective, what we are trying to do as a D&I practitioner is basically tune our hiring managers to weed out any kind of bias. Because today, what we are saying is, we've seen, it's proven that when we get back women from break and have them in our system, there's lesser attrition, higher productivity, and I'm talking business language here. So when business sees value in these kind of interventions, definitely there's a bridge built So women have to pull these opportunities. Many organizations are doing it, including Boeing, the company that I come from. And honestly, we do not do it as a specific intervention. We've curated a sense or an inclusion sense in our hiring managers who do not ask questions pertaining to breaks, rather talks around skill and talent, if that answers your question.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much. Yeah, we have a question for Savita. Savita, it says language is one of the most significant barriers and a fundamental cause of problems in cross-cultural communication. With your 2 decades of, being with the language learning, can you tell us, how do we go about, breaking these barriers?
No, yeah. Yes, I mean, we have seen how when I started the business, it was mostly English language that was in demand. And slowly in a place like India, how foreign languages, whether it's French or German or Spanish, there is a huge demand for this languages over a period of years. And now it's in the new national education policy, there is a 3 language policy where one language of the regional choice, one is of course English, and the third language of where it could be a foreign language or any language. So the importance of languages is increasing. It's like whether it's schools who offer foreign languages now, or colleges, or corporates who have teams working across different geographical locations and things like that. In one area, it's like the people speaking or learning different foreign languages is increasing. And the other area, it's like English is becoming like a common lingua franca. Everyone is sort of now is exposed to English language. We no longer get people in a place like Bangalore wanting to learn English language because everyone is already exposed to English language. So on one hand, English is sort of unifying, bringing everyone together and sorting out those language barriers and saying English is the common language, whether on the internet or with teams working in different geographical locations and things like that. At the same time, languages like French, German, Spanish, Chinese, and even Japanese are, there is an increase in demand for these languages so that you can connect with these teams effectively and communicate with them, and there are less of barriers when you're talking to them. So when coming to the language barriers, even in the Google, the Google translation has sort of taken over, and then there is no, barriers. It's like Google is doing its job. So English is becoming like a unifying this thing. And so I would suggest for students, pick up one language. In addition to whatever you speak at home, of course, mother tongue is important, and English has sort of become like a common language everywhere. Apart from it, one language, whether it's a French or a German or a Spanish, it sort of helps you in your career in the future. So even though it's like the barriers on one hand are reducing, there are people taking up languages. So I think one language as students would help in their future careers.
Thank you, Savita. I have a question for Srivalli, ma'am. Do you find it to be a bigger challenge adapting to the organizational change brought in by the external factors, or creating changes within the existing organization, ma'am? Which you feel is a bigger challenge?
Personally, I feel that adapting to the internal challenges is more difficult than external challenges, because internally we are accountable to the, what I can say is we feel a sense of responsibility to the employees, and sometimes there can be certain layoffs or certain hard decisions to make, and it creates a sense of say a difficult situation wherein the type of communication also becomes difficult. How to communicate this to the internal resources. So I personally feel that internal changes are a bit difficult to handle than external changes, considering my personal experience.
Okay. Thank you. I have a question for Nandini, ma'am. Ma'am, this is something very dear to me, but then still I have not found an answer. Asking your view on this. See, I was reading one of these, long time back, we say that, Stephen Covey says character is what we are and competence is what we can do. But many research studies, ma'am, says that, they don't go together. And I've also experienced that in my period in the education. So, ma'am, how do we handle this when character and competence don't go together?
This is quite, I don't know how to describe the question, and I'm trying to attempt maybe not the befitting response here. It's again, I'll go back to a concept that I had used during my opening remarks, and that's conditioning. Character and competence.
Yes, ma'am.
Sometimes conditioning and being intentional about that conditioning really finds a bridge. Now, we are all talking about the core values of people, charting the employee value proposition by that, being transparent, fair, trustworthy, leading by example, and things like that. These may not be natural traits that comes to me as an individual. And when it does not come to me as an individual, how do I demonstrate that? When I'm in an ecosystem, there is an expectation that I would behave or I would demonstrate certain habits or values through my way of operating, which actually aligns to the company's value or the culture. It's all about conditioning. But when I talk about the core values of an organization, and if you really, really closely look at, those are the core values that our parents, our teachers teach us when we are in our founding years. It's just that the corporate lingos are a little different versus what we actually practice or may have heard, but intentionally not registered or internalized. So it's all about conditioning. You need to be intentional. 21 days of conscious practice definitely builds a habit.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Noted, ma'am. I think we have a question for Malini, ma'am. Just taking, the quick read from, Dale Carnegie's when we talk about, the text which says today's, it says today's students, are cannot be criticized, condemned, complained, and you need to show appreciation, and teacher has to be smiling. Ma'am, I just wanted to know, do you subscribe to this view? And what is an appropriate teaching method in the college classroom?
Okay. So what I strongly believe is that in case if you need to punish a student in any ways for that matter, so just do it within the classroom so that they can learn along with you. So just by throwing them outside the classroom, suspending them, I don't think so. Students who will be able to learn what exactly you wanted to reach out there. So whatever you wanted to do, I think faculty should have more of patience these days. That's one thing which has to be accepted, whether we like it or no, or however it is. With that, I think we can bring in changes with the kids these days. And kids these days are quite kind of, as I mentioned, they are maybe a single kid or just two kids pampered a lot and more. And it's not the same kind or way they are being brought up as the kids were being brought up before 3 decades or 4 decades. So there is lots of difference. I'm sure most of the parents in the group here might be actually accepting to this point, and even the teachers as well. So because of the difference in how they are being brought up in today's generation, I think teachers need to have lots of patience. And I think in any ways, scolding them or shouting at them will not be a point where we can reach them with whatever is there on our minds. So I think this is what I would like to share.
I think
Manjula, can I just add one thing there?
Yes.
So I think it's a very valid question, and being parents, we do understand where you are coming from also.
Right.
But I think what is really important is giving feedback. So I think so. It is not only for students, but even in corporate, I think so. There is a culture of giving feedback. The students have to be receptive in accepting, it's critical feedback or corrective feedback is very, very important, So I think so the culture of accepting a feedback is something which we should develop in the students, that will really help them in a long run. See, you can't really solve, there are, the students or today's parents are obviously much more, what I would say, involved in in their child's life than what it was. But how you can, develop student to accept feedback is very, very important, and that will really solve a lot of these issues, is my thought.
If I may go.
Lavanya, yeah. Manjula ma'am, I have a point.
Yes, yes,
I
please.
think mentoring the students with proper mentorship also, I think we can bring in the changes.
Yes. Yes.
I think, I have adding one point. I feel a teacher or when we say as educators, when we act as learning facilitators of the young minds and guide them, I think we guide them through education. This is my take on, when we talk about.
May I add up?
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe a
Please,
perspective.
please.
Yeah. So I think it's an age of rationalizing and resonating. The two big R's that is required. And it's a responsibility of both the teachers, the faculty, as well as the students' mind, because at the end of the day, what are the students striving to be? A good leader in whichever space they are in. So it is very important for the teachers to educate and the students to understand the power of Johari window and understanding the blind spot. Weaving in here, which Lavanya was talking about, is feedback. Now, feedback can be in many ways. What is the required mode of giving feedback is to offer constructive feedback, where I tell you what you've done has brought in this impact, but what if you're trying to do this differently, or maybe in this manner, this is what the impact would have been. And that's where the rationalization kicks in. Because we never know who's in what stage of Maslow's hierarchy in needs in their personal life or in their social life. So if you're just trying to download, the minds may not be open to receive it. So it's very important that the window is open and we tell them the importance of understanding the blind spot and why we are saying we need to do certain things in a certain manner, if that helps.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for all your viewpoints. Now we are open for the participants to post their questions. We'll take questions for another 5 minutes, and we will, have the closing remarks by all the panelists. There's a question by Rajeshwari Manjunath to Savita, ma'am. She says, ma'am, she says a very informative session. Trusting all the people as a women leader is right. If a person is not trustworthy after we trust, as a leader, how do we manage?
Yeah, sometimes it happens. I mean, we get all kinds of people, and I think instead of doubting, it's always better to start with the trust, and then as and when it's like it turns out, the situation turns out different, maybe manage it separately. Then it happens. I mean, life is part of all kinds of people, all kinds of situations, and we would have to face them. So it's always better to start off with the, because sometimes it's like there are those good people and we should not get those opportunities wasted. So start off, and then as and when something different comes up, you would have to deal with it separately. And sometimes mistakes do happen and we'd have to let them go and then handle it differently. It's all part of life. They're all learning lessons, and we become wiser with every such situation that comes up.
Okay. I hope it has answered Rajeshwari's question. Any other question from the participants? Please post in the chat. Post it in the chat. Okay.
Ma'am, I have a question, Benzi.
Yes, Benzi. Yeah, Benzi.
Ma'am, a question to Savita, ma'am. Ma'am, what do you enjoy the most being an entrepreneur, and what is the most challenging thing as a woman that you have faced, and how do you overcome that?
I started off my business immediately after my MBA without any experience whatsoever, whether it's in the foreign languages or in the corporate world. So what I really enjoyed is the entire entrepreneurship is more like a creativity, right? You get to express, I mean, you get to build your business and taking a lot of feedback, the customers, the changing needs of the markets, and then sort of build the entire business and the system in a way so that creativity that every day you get up and what is it that you can do something differently today, what is the innovation that you can bring in, how can you work on the same thing with lesser costs, minimizing costs, maximizing profitability, and what new technologies can we bring in is what keeps me going. And this entire virtual online, this thing 10 years back, I'd sort of seen this and had decided that this is where the business should go. And even 2-3 years even before the lockdown happened, we were exactly prepared because we started offering online classes, and this was the space that I always wanted to get in. And when the lockdown happened, we were sort of as if it was like we were ready to jump in, and immediately we decided to close the physical spaces and got into the online this thing. So this entire creativity, innovation, bringing in, I mean, there's a lot of technology, so using the technology to build the business, right, is what keeps me going, and that's what I enjoy doing it in the business every day.
Thank you, Savita. I think there's one question in the chat which says, I think anybody can take this question. It's not specifically posed to somebody. Ma'am, I'd like to know one quality that one should possess to stand out as the best leader, from Bhavna.
Ma'am, if I can take that question.
Yes, Shriva.
The one quality that I feel every leader should possess is being empathetic. He should try to understand the other person's situation and react accordingly. And that is the most important feeling that, most important characteristic I feel that leadership possesses.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I think we've had many questions posed to all our panelists. I now invite everybody to give their closing remarks. Over to Nandini, ma'am.
Thank you. It was such an invigorating conversation along the way. I have learned a lot. And my message here would be, there is no one golden rule to be a successful leader. Wear your human side on. Always continue to rethink, reimagine, and reset. There's no end to learning, and I'm sure you'll walk through. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request Lavanya, ma'am.
Yeah, it was actually a very engaging Saturday, very different from what we typically do on a Saturday. And I really thank the entire Maharani College faculty to kind of come and speak. Like Nandini said, there were a lot of learnings for us also as we kind of interact, right? But one thing I just want to kind of leave with all the students is like, all the students is about, it's not about doing extraordinary things every day. Most of the people, if you can do ordinary things in extraordinary way, that's where you will kind of make an impact. And that is what I want to leave that message with all the students out here. And also to say that, be a student for life. Every day you learn, and it is not that once you're out of college, you stop being a student. But most successful people are who are students for life. They learn every day, So I want to just leave that with a message. Good luck to all of you, and happy month.
Yeah. Thank you so very much. Savita?
They say change is the only constant. So every day when you wake up, just question yourself, what is it that I can do differently today? What else is possible? What new thing can I learn today? And keep innovating. And I think this will take you places. All the very best to all of you. Thank you.
Shrivalli, ma'am.
First of all, I'd like to thank the management for giving me this opportunity, and it has been a really good learning experience for me. And the one point that I would like to make is to the students, I would like to tell them, be strong with your foundations, be strong with whatever you do, be strong with the basics that you're learning, so that you can, that will help in the long run. It will always help in the long run. That's all. Thank you.
Closing remarks, Malini ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. So first of all, I would like to thank the college and the authorities for giving me the opportunity for having this wonderful session and the discussion. So one thing I would like to tell the students is that please have more initiativeness. Initiate yourself with any new ideas, whether it is small or big, and wherever you are, so that you can bring in the change, whatever that you want to see the world has to be like. So have more of initiativeness within yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. It was wonderful hosting, all of you for this panel discussion. A great learning for me personally, and many key takeaways for all the participants. For all the participants today, a call for action for the all young women participants here is that what I understand from today's talk is that own your career. Don't wait for somebody to tap on your shoulder. Seize an opportunity. Recognize when women do great work. Appreciate it, celebrate it, and reward it. Thank you all. Over to Benzi.
Yes, ma'am. That was indeed a very enlightening session. I would like to thank our speakers for sharing their insights on embracing diversity and inclusion, the necessity for leaders to become agile and adopt new age leadership styles, and the relevance of virtual leadership today. I would also like to thank the participants for joining us today. And with that, we come to the end of our session today. So thank you all once again. And participants, kindly note the last event for the day will be the valedictory. And I request all the participants to kindly join for the same at 3 p.m. The link for the same will be shared shortly. Thank you so much.
Thank you all,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nandini ma'am, and
Thank
Lavanya
you so
ma'am.
much.
And thank you, Savita, Shrivalli ma'am, and Mami ma'am. Thanks
Thank
a
you.
ton.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.